Hello, everyone. I am Brandon K. Hedgepeth, host and producer of the Tansson Talks show, and I'm so glad to have you all here today. If you all don't know me, I am a lifelong learner, communicator, graduate student, and of course your friend, and I'm glad to have you here. And so, before we go ahead and get started for today, I did want to give the warmest of welcomes to my friend, Michael Mcclellan. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me back.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you back. And so, before we get started, I did want to allow a moment for you to go ahead and reintroduce yourself to the watching and listening audience here today.
Well, I am a recent graduate at Asbury University. I studied television broadcast and I minored in journalism. And my most recent experiences, I was a videographer and photog for a documentary on human dignity. We filmed in Germany and Poland and some other places. So that came out the last fall. And then we did a re-ed that came out last month, actually, in the film festival. So that was really cool. And then another most recent project is that I am an associate producer on WTVQ's news/lifestyle broadcast, High Noon with Doug and Lisa High.
Yeah, I know you absolutely love that job. And yeah, I mean, there's just so many great opportunities that you've had. And so to fill you all in for those who are just now tuning in and watching this episode. So Michael is definitely, to say that he is a friend of the podcast is such an understatement. And so when I first met him, almost by the time this releases, almost 9 years ago, we were rising seventh graders, and you were very obsessed with television back then. And now you can say that you was a lifestyle associate producer, for a actual TV station, around in Kentucky. I mean, all before graduating college, which you did a year early. So, I mean, definitely kudos to you for everything that you have done. I mean, that is extraordinary.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I'm very lucky that I was able to recognize what I wanted to do. And so, that's something that has been consistent since I was little, is that I wanted to do something in television. So I'm definitely blessed.
Well, yeah, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you here. And, once again, you have been on numerous different iterations of my podcast over the years. And so, while I may have had over 100 guests at this point on the podcast, you were my very first. So, so the fact that I was able to have you then and to have you on again, I mean, it's just truly tremendous.
Of course. Thank you for always supporting and inviting me on your platform.
Yeah, of course. And so I went ahead and dived back through some of our previous stuff that we have done together. And definitely did my research as to what you've been doing now. And so I did want to actually start off by asking, so you always have really known that you wanted to do something with television in some way, shape, or another. And so what really drove you to wanting to be interested in television and learning more about it?
Yeah, I don't know what particular thing that got me into it, but I think that I remember just growing up, of course I watched your typical children's program, but I remember always being fascinated by daytime talk show TV. So, your Access Hollywood, your Wendy Williams, your The View, whatever show that was on, Steve Harvey, I think had a show, Tyra. And I just remember always just sitting there watching daytime television and loving the conversations, the topics, the audience, the whole live aspect of it. And I was like, I really like this. And it was very interesting. And so I always kept that in the back of my mind, and just the production aspect, and wanted to know about who decides how many seasons the episode's going to be and hiatus and all that. And I, just started researching. I was always on IMDb, always on Wikipedia as a kid, just kind of learning interesting factoids about television. I think it just, as I grew up, the interest just grew. And so, yeah.
That is so interesting. And what would you say separates daytime television as opposed to other types of television like primetime and news broadcasts and yeah, everything else.
Yeah, I would say my interest that separates is like I said, I really love the live component of it and the very conversational based of it. I have a very specific type of humor, so I don't really always resonate with primetime television like a sitcom type of style show, but I really just love conversational based shows. And so I think that's really like piqued my interest. Of like I remember just being like 7 and a host would use a word that I didn't know and I was like, "Oh, that was cool." And I would maybe like rerun back it and listen to the word again and then I would try to use it in my own vocab. And so there's things like that just stood out to me.
Yeah, being able to learn from it and, a little bit more of a casual nature, but things can go wrong and that's okay. We just have to work with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so that's really cool, to sort of hear some of that background. Because I mean, even for me, like that was never even a question I had even asked. I just knew that, if I had any questions regarding TV, you're the person to definitely ask on that front. So yeah, that's so interesting. And so I guess how have your interests like within television and daytime television like really evolved over the years, especially up to the point that we met?
Yeah, involved. I don't know. Like I remember this as a kid and maybe yeah, around that age I thought that I wanted to be like talent. And I think that's a very complicated relationship because sometimes I really want to say like I want to host a show. I want to do like a radio show, a talk show. And then I think about it more and as I involved, I realized how much weight that holds and how much burden it can bring. And then I was like, I really love this aspect of production, live production, but necessarily the stress of knowing how I'm perceived on television notes my living kind of very was like, I don't really know if I vibe with that or really want that on my day to day. And so I was like, what other jobs? Um, Something that maybe would be applicable to me. And so I was doing more research and like producers are really cool because they're kind of really like the logistics, the coordinator of like how the show flows and it kind of like what topics gets discussed and how long they're going to talk about it. And I really love kind of like the details orientedness of it of like, okay, these are topics, we're going to organize it, we're going to make the show. And something that I don't know if you remember is that I loved designing a show and kind of like how it's going to be in the structure. And so I was like, okay, I really like structure and kind of designing of like how it's going to be. And I was like, okay, producing. And so I started researching and I was like, maybe I want to be a producer. And it kind of just evolved into where I am.
But that's, I mean, really cool to realize, especially early on, before you spend all this time and dedication towards, one part of your past when you really, when you really actually want a different part. And I like that you've explored like all the different options and that while you're open to it, what parts really suit you better and which parts are, maybe as like a side interest or something for the future, but not right now.
Exactly.
So yeah, something I actually wanted to ask you too is I know actually quite a while ago, like before any of us had even done content, that you also used to do a little bit of writing as well, at least like around 2015, I think.
Yeah, wow, yeah, I didn't really think about that. I mean, yeah, I think I went through a little phase where like I liked writing short story and fiction. I think I always am in the back of my mind when I watch television or I watch different mediums, I get inspired and think, well, what if they could do this? And then maybe I'll write something kind of like a side thing. And I think that maybe in the future I would explore that more writing creatively, but I think that right now my focus as I got older was more um, you know, nonfiction.
That makes perfect sense. And so, yeah, just wanted to make sure I asked about that because I know it had been such a long time, and I had never asked about it because I know that, yeah, that was around summer of 2015. Like, it's crazy to think how long ago that was.
Yeah, I didn't honestly before you mentioning that kind of maybe oh yeah, I forgot I at least like that type of stuff. So yeah, I think that's cool. Maybe I'll need to go back to that. I think something that you appreciate when you're a child that you miss as you get older is like the freedom of less like having the time to develop or have the time to do skills that maybe like you didn't discover. I think now you live such a, as an adult, as a college student, as a graduate, you most of your time is dedicated to doing specific things. And so you don't really have the freedom to be like, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that. And so I think when you're a kid and you're growing up, it's really, you kind of don't appreciate the freedom to explore different activities until you get older.
That is so true. I mean, I know for myself, there's just so many things I am interested in. Well, you know that. And yeah, I just love exploring. But at the same time, I've noticed that as a college student and now graduate student, that I don't know, not saying I don't necessarily have the time, because I feel like I have way more free time than I should. But at the same time, though, I'm always working on something, and actually probably numerous things. And so you don't often have a lot of times for every interest that you have. And so it's like, unfortunately, some things just sort of go to the wayside for a little bit, as you're restructuring your priorities. But I mean, that's unfortunately a part of the, I guess, growing up process, is that you sort of have to pick and choose like which priorities you're going to focus on. Not that you can't do the others. It's just a time constraint.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so prior to your college experience, though, I know in high school that, when you were at least initially starting off, that even though that you've always wanted to do TV stuff, that you actually start off like doing aviation stuff.
Yeah, yeah, in high school, the first year and a half, I did the like an aviation STEM program. And honestly, like I necessarily didn't do it because I was maybe passionate about it, but I think that I did it because it was different. And I think that, I think that I read a statistics that this generation will do over 20 different jobs before they retire. And, I saw this and I was like, okay, cool. Like maybe let's try it. And I didn't really find a passion for it, but I always like knew that like my passion was television. But I had some friends at the time that were doing aviation, and they were like, "You should do it with me." And I was like, don't knock it till you try it. And so I did it. It wasn't really for me, but I learned some really cool skills from it. STEM is really important, especially with AI trying to take everybody's job. And STEM will probably be maybe the last, I don't know, entity that gets taken over before AI. So maybe I should have kept doing aviation, but yeah, it was a good experience. I'm glad I did it. I got connected with Skills USA and got some CTE awards and really got to learn a different aspect of skills that I can use in media now. So I think everything happens for a reason.
That is so true, and that's something I definitely believe in. And speaking of Skills USA, are you able to tell the watching or listening audience a little bit more about Skills USA, what it is, and that you actually continued with it even after you completed your time doing aviation work?
Yeah, so Skills USA, sorry Skills USA, it's been a while, so I don't remember what it all stands for anymore. But it's kind of like a career technical educational competition, and so it provides leadership development for students with their different desired trades. And so you'll do different competitions from regional all the way to nationals, and you will do competitions based off of your technical career educational program. And so for aviation, I did a design structure engineering model. So I made a three-dimensional sculpture-based model of an airport, and as like a business proposal of like, if we were giving money to make an airport, this is what it would look like, this would be the cost, this is how it looks, this is how it be sustainable. And we kind of created that with a 3D printer and presented it, and that won second place in Virginia. And then I did another competition called OSHA, which is Occupational Health and Safety, and we did a book to go with the model, and that got first place in Virginia. And then I continued doing that with Telecom, which is a telecommunications with New Prince Public School. And that's kind of like the same model of Aviation Academy, except it was focused on TV and video production. And so I did a OSHA manual for that 2 years in a row. kind of like the OSHA certifications of the television industry. And so it got first place in Virginia in 2018, 2019, and then nationals in 2019. It got ranked in the top 12 books. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is so cool that you were able to do that. And, and the fact that you were able to, make first place at the state level, I believe twice, and then the second time being able to, to make it to the nationals and, like you said, the top 12. How cool is that you were able to do that at, I believe, 11th grade?
Yeah. Yeah. I've such a cool experience. I really appreciate Skillshare because, like I said, it was skills that probably I wouldn't get to tap into if I didn't do aviation. And so I think that that's going back to like the and everything happens for reasons that, like, while I didn't find a passion for maybe all of my aviation skills, I really got to be part of a really great program where I got to network and meet some really great people and collaborate with really cool people on cool projects. And so I'm forever grateful for Skillshare and that whole process.
Yeah, that is so cool. And so for you, how was it actually being able to go to national? And are you able to tell us a little bit about, I guess, that time? Because I think national is a week or a few days.
Yeah, it's like a week long process, and yeah, you go, you get to meet a bunch of other people. It's kind of like this big. I think it was in a stadium field, like a baseball or football. I can't remember exactly. I think it was a football stadium, and you meet a bunch of people, and it's almost like you're going on a press tour for like a book. You know how our author does like a press junkins, and so like I felt like me and my teammates were going on a press junket with this book, this 150-page manual, and you go and you pitch it to other people in the same career field as yours, but others, and you analyze the book, you talk about it, you promote it, people judge it, and then during that process, there's like really fun activities and icebreakers with other students, and you get to look at their projects and stuff. It's really a fun time. I encourage anybody that's in high school and middle school to get involved with Skills USA because I think it's a really great opportunity.
That's so good to hear. And if I remember correctly, that your Skills USA competition was actually in Kentucky, where you ultimately ended up going to college.
Yes, it was in Louisville. Yeah, and it's funny. Yeah, when I was there, I enjoyed it when I was there too, and I didn't really think that I would be back or I would spend such an extended long time there. But yeah, it was so interesting to know just 2.5 years later that I would be back for a stint of my life. So yeah.
Yeah, that is so cool, that you were able to do that, and especially being a part of the telecom program that both of us were in. And so, yeah, I definitely want to touch on, that program later, but I know that around the same time that you were also a podcast host yourself. And so, at the time with the Unpopular Vote.
Yeah, that was a little fun project around that time, and yeah, it was really just kind of like an outlet of like I had a lot of unpopular opinions. Like I said, I very have like a sense of like a really specific type of humor that maybe not everyone understands from my perspective, and so it was kind of like I don't know, like an hour pop culture hour type show where you can really just dive into like the unpopular opinions of like different shows I watch and music, different things like that. I was actually one of my bigger guests during those episodes was a Caroline. She was on the Bravo series Below Deck, and she kind of was an unpopular, got cast typed as like the villain of that season. And so we had her on, and we kind of talked about for like maybe like an hour and a half, like the behind the scenes of reality TV and kind of like how producers like to make a storyline. It was very interesting, but also I was really grateful to like say like, hey, I've had a Bravo, someone that's on television on my podcast, and so yeah, it was really fun, really fun experience.
Yeah, I bet. And yeah, because you had done that for, I believe it was like 2018 to 2020, because I believe you did it right up until like you graduate high school, give or take.
Yeah,
Um,
yep.
yeah. And so, yeah, and I was definitely very honored when you had asked me to, yeah, be a guest on your podcast. I had never done anything like that before. I had done podcasting in my own right, but it was always by myself. So it was really fun to be on yours, but definitely a learning experience too, because again, I had never done anything like that. So it was like very intimidating for me, but you made the process so smooth though.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you did a great job.
Yeah, it's cool. I look back at those interviews and it was like, just like, that was like 2018, 2019, around that time. And then you look, COVID happened in 2020 and all of these platforms and services to kind of make remote podcast work and be good quality for different mediums. It's kind of cool that, like, I was like, dang, if only I released it a couple years later with all these cool gadgets and servers. But yeah, I was glad to do it. It was fun.
Yeah, that is so cool. And so, yeah, so when you ultimately finish out high school, which, yes, it was during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. And so, first of all, I don't think I've ever asked, but how was your experience, like, I guess, navigating through, through those months up until your official, high school graduation, especially in regards to, like, college applications and trying to figure out which college you wanted to go to?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that work was done, throughout 2019, so it wasn't like it was a big, like, worrisome. Like, I guess I didn't get to visit a lot of the colleges that I wanted to visit, but, I mean, I was kind of okay with it. But the whole COVID thing, I remember the first couple weeks I was a little sad because I was working on my final edition of the OSHA book. I was gonna do, like, a re-release, with a good friend of mine, and that had to get scrapped. It was finished. Funny or not, all the pages are done. They're just lost in Google Drives now. But yeah, so that was a little frustrating to have a project almost be completed and then it just gets scrapped by the pandemic. I think a lot of creatives had that feeling. But then after that, I remember just like thinking about the freedom that I have. Like, never again in my life. Hopefully, I don't know, you never know with this world. But it was a cool thing to be like, I don't have anything, like, I don't have any permanent responsibility where I can just wake up and I can make the day what I want to be, of course, with CDC guidelines and regulations. But, I started a hiking club with some good friends of mine at the time, and we just got in our cars and we would go to different, like, mountains, we would go to different landscapes, we would discover just different trails around the Virginia area. And it was this amount of freedom that I had to just kind of like spend time with people, be relational, really get to pour into myself. And so I really enjoyed those months as kind of just a reflective space to kind of just like relax, recollect before I went into like the next phase of life. So I appreciated it a lot.
And I'm sure that helped for your personal well-being as well. I mean, just being able to have like a gentle break from everything. I know high school can be stressful, especially towards the end. So I mean, at least you were able to have like a little bit of reprieve from all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so ultimately, when you know decide to go to Asbury University up in Kentucky, so how was that experience for you? Like the sort of transition into it, and I can't remember. Did you take a tour, of Asbury prior to officially accepting?
Oh, no. I didn't really. Asbury was like a very last minute decision. There, Miss McKnight, she was a teacher at Woodside at the time, and she went to Asbury and she studied media. And I remember talking to her about like, oh, I really need to, want to find like a good media program. And she recommended it to me. It was her school, and she said she had a really good experience there. It was really great with media, and I was like, oh, okay. And I did some research, and they had a lot of reviews. They had a partnership with the Olympics. Um, they have like one of the second largest at the time. It was the first, I think. As I went there, we got demoted to second. But at the time, the world's largest green screen in Kentucky, And so, like, I don't know, it just seemed like a really good media opportunity. And so I kind of just took a leap and I went, and yeah, there I was in Kentucky.
Yeah, and how was the experience, especially adjusting it? Because I presume that's like your first real time like away from home, and you left state lines, and so like
Yeah.
how was that for you? Because you even paid for your own way, if I remember correctly, especially with scholarships and everything.
Yeah, that first, well, socially, yeah, I think that for sure is always hard. Because a lot of my friends at the time stayed around here. I think they did like Thompson Nelson, like a 2-and-2 program, or took a gap year, and so I felt like a lot of like my support system was left here, and I was really just going out by myself, and it was a little rough. I think socially it was a little rough because I was just like, I need friends, I need connection, but it wasn't coming as easy. But it was like hybrid classes, so like one day we were in person, like one group was in person, one group was in the dorm still, and so you were always wearing masks around people, and if you didn't really already establish a relationship with people that prior semester, it was just rough, and so it was very awkward. But I think each semester progressively got better and I kind of navigated my way through it. And yeah, I think, yeah.
Well, that's nevertheless, interesting, to hear about your overall experience. And so, well, I said, but I know that you had been preparing for college like for quite a while, and so like you had, taken it upon yourself to do the research to, like I say, work towards scholarships, work all these numerous jobs to like buy yourself a car to drive yourself there and back. I mean, I don't know how you did it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like, yeah, I have like my family was very supportive and helped me along the way. But yeah, I think that just, I don't know, just hard work and just really having a vision. I think that when you have at least a sort of outline of what you want to do, I think it's very easy. And so I think that was one of my biggest um attributes, is that like I had an outline of like kind of like what I wanted, what I needed, and kind of loosely how to get there. And so it kind of helped streamline that process and that transition.
Well, nevertheless, though, I mean, like I said, I'm just glad that you were able to, make the most of that time, prepare yourself for college. And then when you got to Asbury, as per an interview that we did, at least in mid 2021, at the time, you were an intercultural relations officer, a theater stage director, and an admissions assistant.
Yeah. 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 It's crazy to think about those things because it feels like it was so long ago, but also not that long ago. But yeah, that was one of my favorite aspects of Asbury University, is finding a love for higher education. I think I had like either 6 or 7 jobs in the higher um ed world, and like one of those first ones were being a relations equity inclusion officer, and really diving into kind of like the components, what I loved about doing the podcast on popular vote, but really combining that with the work of what it is interculturalism. And interculturalism and cultural competency were things that I wasn't like, I didn't really know about those things, and maybe I did know about it a little bit, but I really wasn't doing the work. And I got inspired by a bunch of students leaders of colors, and particularly that were talking about racism and equity and wage gaps, and you know, connections between an international student and a U.S. ethnic minority, and the dynamics that comes with that. And those are things that really I haven't had the opportunity to dive into, but I felt people inspired me and believed in me to dive into those topics, and I've grown so much in that field, but also in other fields of higher education. So I think this was one of my favorite aspects of Asbury, and has I grown as a leader there.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you were able to have that development and I mean, to honestly work towards your goals, try something new, and yeah, I mean, that's just so cool. I mean, especially for you as a television production major, but yet using so much of your resources for like academic purposes and helping to uplift others.
Yeah, this is really cool. I think one of my favorite jobs that kind of correlates to producing was that I was an academic advisor. So that just kind of details of like looking at people's schedules and organizing and kind of helping them on a day to day of like plugging in different classes and like just following them throughout their college journey. And a lot of what producing is that you'll have your news director has a bunch of stories that they assign to your MMJs and your reporters, and then you have to look at it and you have to compile it into an episode. And so those logistical things that I did in academic coaching kind of like will be used for producing, and some of those skills do overlap. But also I love the aspects of being relational and building relation with people and learning how to serve and love others well. And I think that having those type of qualities can be used to make the media world such a better place as well.
That is so true. That is so true. And like I said, I'm just so impressed by how much you are able to do in just such little time. And so yeah, but I know that even though that your academic years have been certainly busy, you definitely like kept busy over the summer though. You you did not take summer break lightly. And so I believe for for one or two of the summers you worked at a summer camp that you were very passionate about. Another one, I believe you worked on a film project, like in Europe. And yeah, I mean, how do you manage to do all of this? And are you able to speak a little bit about some of the experiences that you were able to have over these summers?
I the first 2 summers, I worked at a summer camp in Williamsburg, and it was such a great opportunity. The kids I got to coach were amazing. I think a lot of those kids I try to keep in contact with to this day. And once again, I learned another job that I really love to do, and it kind of goes back to the academic coaching aspect of being relational and serving others well. And I think that that's a strong passion of mine that I've developed and cultivated over the years, is really just collaboratively working with others on this leadership development and kind of growing with one another. And I really am grateful for the camp. And then this past summer, actually a year ago today, I think I would be on the flight to go to Germany, or to Amsterdam first, to start filming a human dignity documentary, which is titled Don't Forget Us, A Walk Through the Holocaust. And yeah, that project was very just incredible. I originally was not supposed to be on the project, and then I had a friend at the time who told me about it and was like, hey, we need one more videographer and photog. Would you want to be interested? And I was like, well, I don't know if I'll be good for it. And I talked to one of the executive producers, and very just like over spring break, I like booked a flight and was like, sign me up. I'm going to do the project. And we filmed for about 16 days, and then we edited over the summer. And yeah, it was an opportunity of a lifetime that I would never forget. And while days were hard filming, it was such important to be able to tell the story of how this generation is processing human dignity. And yeah, it was just such a great opportunity, and I'm so glad it premiered in October. And then we did another another version of it that premiered last May, and I think that they're going to shop it around different other streaming platforms and different festivals. So I'm excited to see what comes of the project, but incredibly grateful for the experience.
Yeah, whenever the opportunity arises, I am definitely looking forward to checking it out myself, because I mean, just from hearing about all the great work that you all were doing and telling these very important stories, I mean, I definitely want to make sure I'm able to tune in and definitely take a thing or two from learning it from it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think that's the director, Gracie Turner. I think that's all she wants from it. So, yeah.
Well, that is, I think that's just such a tremendous mission that you all are working towards, and yeah, I mean, but was this your first? This was your first time working on a film project, or at least the largest scale film project you've worked on?
Yeah, I think this was my second film. in general, I think prior to that in 2021, fall of 2021, I worked on a independent project, indie film called The Arbors, directed by Matthew Smitley. Incredible kind of coming to age adolescence project about bullying, and it was a really good project. It was my first time I worked on a film because I really am not a film type of guy. If anyone knows me, they know that that's not my specialty, that's not my love. But I really, when I have friends that have really good projects and really good stories, of course, when you're a lover of stories, you're going to work on projects that has good stories, and this one had one. And so I was grateful to be able to help out on that project. And I know it premiered in a couple film festivals in Canada, and it was really successful, and it was a good opportunity.
But that is great to hear. And so, yeah, were you able to take some stuff that you had learned from the first film project into the second one that you were helping with?
Yeah, in terms of just like the how long it takes, I definitely took that in, and kind of this how much communication matters, and really just having a good morale with your crewmates really translate to making the project a good environment for viewership. And so I think that I love the people I worked with on the Arbors, and then I got to meet some incredible people on the cast of the Don't Forget Us, which were actually the premise of the documentary was a group of 16 college students studying psychology went to tour different concentration camps and different historical monuments on human dignity. And so we were capturing this current generation and how they're viewing human dignity. And so I got to meet people, these 16 students who I didn't know before. I got to meet some of them while filming them, and they became some really good friends of mine. And I still talk to them and hang out with them to this day. And so I think that was really cool that came out of that project.
That's so interesting to get their insight into all of this. And so, did all of them also go to Asbury, or did they go to different colleges and universities throughout the United States? Or
Most of them went to Asbury. I think there was one or two that didn't, went to other institutions, but it was primarily Asbury students, psychology students.
that is so interesting. And so, how did you actually first find out about the film project?
Yeah, there was a donor who went to Asbury that graduated, I believe, and he said that Paul Nesrode, who is the prof that oversees the Human Dignity Project, historically Asbury sends 15 to 20 students bi-yearly to Germany, Europe, in general, to study a particular historical research, whether it's human dignity, trafficking, whatever comes to mind. And so a donor says, why don't we have students capture it? Journalists, photogs, film majors, work on a project, and it's never been done before. And so he allocated some money to produce a documentary, and they kind of like reached out to different students that would be interested, and the team kind of just assembled on its own. So yeah.
Well, that is just so interesting to hear. And then for I guess the discussion of the hour, though. So throughout this time, we've got to hear a little bit about everything that you've been able to do. You've gone from having a lifelong interest and passion towards television, going into writing to Skills USA, the telecommunications program, podcasting, intercultural relations, theater, all of this your film projects, all of this different stuff. And then this most recent spring 2023, you were an associate lifestyle producer at WTVQ, so for High Noon. So how was that experience for you?
Yeah, the greatest. I think High Noon is absolutely my favorite project I've worked on ever. Yeah, it was really a great, like, I needed it. I didn't know how much I needed it, but I really needed to work on High Noon to really kind of find my love again for broadcast journalism. The semester prior, I got to do an independent study. It was called Asbury AM. I executive produced and hosted it. and it didn't really go as planned. It was a failure. I think it was my first time failing um in a while, and I think failure is good because it helps you grow and helps you develop skills that you need to develop. And so I did Asbury AM, and it just really didn't go as well as I wanted it to go in my head. And we wrapped that production. Still grateful for the opportunity. And then I was like, okay, cool. These are the skills that I really still want to develop. And I want an environment where I really could produce on my own and come up with ideas, not be perfect, of course, but really have the freedom to really just grow and learn with a team that supports me and believes in me. And I remember I was on the mission trip with the Salvation Army in New York, and I remember getting an email saying there's an opening for a lifestyle producer, associate producer intern position at ABC 36 WTVQ. And I was like, I literally just asked for this, and here it is in my email box. And I applied for it, and I didn't hear anything back. And then over winter break, Doug High, who is one of the executive producers and anchor of the show, said, "You want to hop on a quick phone call?" And we talked, and then I started. And yeah, it's been a great experience. I love Doug and Lisa High so much. From day one, I came into the studio, and Lisa said, "Here's a list of guests we want on the show. Book them, make it happen." And I booked that first week, and then I came back to her and was like, "All right, those guests are booked. What's next?" She said, "The choice is yours. Take it and run with it and make it your own." And it was like, whoa, like, okay, you're really trusting me with this. And I was able to book over 35 plus guests for High Noon during my time there, which was really also a blessing that I had. I really got to develop research skills and kind of just learn the area really well, and learned about so many cool restaurants and businesses and people that are doing great things in the greater Lexington area. And something that I really loved is that I got to highlight small businesses that really normally do not get the time of day. Like, one of the guests that comes to mind is in March, we had Rachel's Rose Garden in Wilmore, Kentucky, and they talked about floral trends as we were getting into the spring season. And it was such a great informative interview. And a lot of people, her business sales went up 11% after appearing on the show. And I think those are the type of storytellings that I love to do, is highlighting stories and businesses that normally don't get talked about, that deserves to be talked about. And so I really got to hone in on that side of journalism, and I got to learn about so many different cool people. And then just like really structuring that guest block, I got to launch which is currently airing through June. It's a summer camp spotlight. And so kind of like it's a segment where we're building the itinerary of what parents should do with their kids for summer. And so those were cool. That's currently airing various times throughout the week on High Noon. And so just really having the skills of really creating segments on the show during the lifestyle block, and really having the creativity to do so, and having people believe in me. And even when a segment didn't go as great as it could have, having the love and support from Doug and Lisa and the rest of the producers and crew on that show meant the world to me, and I'm incredibly grateful for High Noon, always.
I'm so glad that you were able to have this opportunity, and that you took it, because I know there's just so many different opportunities that you've had over the years. So I'm glad that this is one that you pursued, and made the most of. And I mean, from the sounds of it, I mean, you really were able to make it your own and just strive with it and have an amazing support system along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm so grateful. They're incredible people. Everyone at WTVQ is.
I'm so glad that you're able to do that, especially hearing how you were able to come back after your your show that you previously had, Asbury AM, at your university, and and I guess accepting that it didn't really turn out the way that you had hoped and intended, but we're still able to to come back and try a new opportunity. And I mean, really, make it your own. Just, work, just work to figured out.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm mostly grateful for is that like being able to like recognize that yeah, this wasn't as good as you want it to be, and that's okay. But there's more that can come from it, and High Noon was one aspect of that that I'm grateful for.
I'm glad that you were able to do that. And I'm sure that many of the small businesses and extraordinary people over there in the Lexington, Kentucky area, I'm sure are very grateful to, have been spotlighted on, on the show that you helped associate produce. And so, yeah, I know I had really wanted to hear about that. And even though, of course, I'm in Virginia and don't have access to the station, as much that I was able to see of it from social media content that you put out, I definitely made sure to watch as much of it as I could, to support, because you're just doing just such great work over there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and exactly. That was something else that I really got to do. I got to launch their social media presence, and so that's been really cool. Something that I didn't really have much of familiarity to. I'm not really big on social media, but I really got to learn some tech trends tools. I actually took a grad. It's funny. I took a grad class this semester called Tech Issues and Trends, and it was about digital content and kind of like different tools for accessibilities and different things like that. And so while I was launching the High Noon Instagram, I was in class learning about digital trends. So it kind of all worked out. So it was cool.
That's like perfect.
So, yeah, it really was. It was really good timing.
Yeah, and so even though that you had just graduated, not too long ago, from your undergraduate program, that you did mention, just a moment ago, that you were able to take a grad class or two, before your official graduation.
Yeah, I had enough credits to finish in December, but because I was a vice president on my campus and I had some other contractual things that I had to do with Asbury just because I worked at the school, I had to finish out a full calendar year before I graduated. And so, yeah, I took the opportunity to take some instructional design grad classes, which is something that was really cool, really good classes, and glad I used that opportunity not to just, take the free time. And so they were cool classes, and maybe I'll finish it some other time.
Well, that is always great to hear. And so, how was it actually for you, like transitioning from undergraduate classes, entirely to going to also have graduate classes, undergraduate, a little bit experience, while also working part time at a TV station? I mean, how was that type of balance for you?
Yeah, it was very unbalanced to say the least. Yeah, my mind was very. You have to get good at very compartmentalization because I would wake up every morning and I would go into High Noon around 10:30, 11. We would film the show at 12. I would pre-write some questions and some intros for the next day, coordinate with the other producers and the host about who's coming on, and then I would leave and I would go back to Asbury and I would work in my office, whether it's um, doing some equity inclusion work or academic coaching or admissions work. And I would do that in the afternoon, and in the evenings, I would have hop on a Zoom and I would do class. And yeah, but at the same time, it's like I thought that my life was hectic, and a lot of people, my classmates, were moms, were dads, were husbands, had other jobs, full time jobs as well, and then they do their night classes in the evening. And so I think all of us were all troopers and all have strong tenacity to do the classes at night and then have a really fulfilling life and busy life in the day. And so I was amazed at all of us that we all did it. We did it well, got good grades, and so shout out to everybody in those classes and people that do it all. It's a lot, but we managed to do it and we do it well, and it's worth it at the end.
Yeah, but that certainly brings some perspective to it. I mean, even as a graduate student myself, I mean, yeah, just being able to see all the amazing people that, I have the pleasure and honor of being classmates with, and just seeing all that they do. I mean, I'm just in awe of how they're able to manage to do it. Like, yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and yeah, but it's just so great to hear like everything that you've been able to do, and that you've just never stopped working, and just, you know to keep working on both yourself and, you know, and working to accomplish your goals. And yeah, it's just extraordinary to really think about how far that we've progressed, especially since the time that we first met. I mean, yeah, but I mean, we've worked together on just so many different things as well. And so to see where we are now, it's just, yeah, I'm just grateful for all the opportunities that both of us have been able to do and accomplish.
Yeah, likewise. I think, yeah, I'm just really lucky that I was able to get a job doing a particular topic like lifestyle and entertainment. It's very, you know, when you say, oh, I want to do lifestyle and entertainment, you don't always get to work on that type of project fresh out of college or newly into your career. And so to be able to have a lifestyle reel that of segments that I produced this young into my career, I'm just incredibly thankful and will always be thankful for Doug and Lisa for the remainder of my career. And I will always love High Noon. And so, yeah, and even now I'm, to be 22 and this year and to be going to work for a top 40 market soon, it's just like, I don't know, I'm just really just happy and blessed and thankful.
I mean, yeah, what you're doing is just so extraordinary. And yeah, I mean, I really don't know like what to say in terms of just showcasing like how much you've been able to do and accomplish when you put your mind to it. And that, yeah, I mean, everything happens for a reason. And I'm just so excited to see like how you continue to progress over these next several years and going forward. I mean, the pleasure is all mine to have you on here and to have, yeah, just done so many amazing projects with you over these years.
Likewise, it's always, yeah, I'm always grateful. I always say cherish the people that believe in you, that support you, that, mentor you and all those things. And so thank you, Brandon. You're one of those people. And so I appreciate you as well.
Thank you so much. And yeah, and like I mentioned earlier on, I had went back and reviewed over some of our previous episodes that we had previously done on my other podcast, because the first time we spoke was back in January 2020 on my one of my very first episodes of my Bran'sTech podcast iteration. And so, I mean, to see like where we've progressed from then even to our one of our more recent discussions, actually in summer of 2021, I had asked you a question regarding where do you see yourself in in 4 or 5 years. You actually said that by end of 2022 going into 2023, you wanted to work on different aspects of production, perhaps do a short film, do perhaps even start a news production, and that you wanted to hopefully be at a NBC affiliate station by 2023.
Wow, that's funny. Well, it was the ABC one, but yeah, we got it done. So see, yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Okay, well then let me update it now. So then in the next 4 to 5 years, I am going to or want to do is, let's see, top 40 market now. So maybe top 3 to 20 market, doing lifestyle, and then top 15 possibly, just working on another talk show. Yeah. I think it's my next goals. I want to work on another talk show.
Well, that is so great to hear. I cannot wait to, for us, whenever we have the opportunity to, to chat on the podcast again, or whatever platform I have at that point. I'm just so excited for us to update and just continue our amazing conversations. And I appreciate all of the support that you have given me, and for, just through all the support you've given to everyone that you've had the honor of working with over these years.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me and always sharing your platform and uplifting other creatives in different mediums to come on your podcast and just talk. It's always great. You're doing great work.
Thank you so much. And and even back in our first discussion, you even mentioned it's like, it's like I can't wait to see like how this continues to grow and evolve, and who would know that like 102 guests later that would be back on and having this discussion.
Yeah, it's crazy. I need to go back. I'm gonna go back and listen to those episodes and just hear my responses. It's funny. That was really funny that what I said, and yeah, wow.
Yeah, it truly is extraordinary. But for those who are watching or listening who would like to check out some of the projects that you have worked on over the years, which ones would you like to go ahead and take a moment to promote, if any?
Yeah, okay, so yeah, High Noon airs weekdays on WTVQ-ABC 36 at noon. If you're in the Greater Lexington, it's on your ABC station. But if you're not, then you can go on WTVQ.com/news at noon, and you'll see all the segments on there. Also, our Instagram, which I run, is at ABC High Noon 36 or ABC 36 High Noon, something like that. If you put in High Noon, you'll find it. The documentary version of it is attached on my LinkedIn, Michael Mcclellan. Just search it up, and you'll find it. You'll find the summer camp spotlight on links as well. And watch High Noon, watch the documentary. Yeah.
Well, that is awesome. And I know you're not really big into social media yourself, but if there are any social media pages that you would like to plug, feel free to do so as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow me. I'm trying to build up my LinkedIn. So search me up, Michael Mcclellan. That'd be great. Love to connect with some other cool people. And yeah.
Well, that is so great to hear. And so, last but certainly not least, I did want to close out by allowing a moment for you to go ahead and share some inspirational thought, words of wisdom, whatever the case may be. The floor is all yours, Michael.
Yeah, words of wisdom. I mean, yeah, just like I said, cherish those who love you, who believe in you, who push you. Just continue to find opportunities where you can pour into yourself, but pour into others, and just make an outline. And know that your outline will not always be perfect, and there'll be bumps, but just build up your tenacity, believe in yourself before others can believe in you, and we'll all make it there together. And yeah, I don't know. Be great. Watch WAVY News 10 this summer. Yeah.
Congratulations on that opportunity, by the way.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to it. May 15th. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Well, best of luck, Michael. And definitely best of luck to all of your future endeavors. And until next time, have a wonderful day, everyone. And let's make things happen. I'll see you later. Take care. And that's a wrap on this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Tansson Talks show. A big thank you goes out to our sponsor, Descript, for sponsoring this episode. If you're interested in checking out transcription tools, be sure to find our affiliate link for Descript in the description of this episode. Also, if you'd like to check out any of our official merchandise, go ahead and find us at merch.tanssonmedia.com. Of course, be sure to subscribe to the Tansson Talks show on YouTube or anywhere you can find podcasts. Until next time, this has been Brandon, and I'll see y'all later. Take care.